Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Shop Talk with Sublime. We are on week number 4 out of 6 of our weekly webinar series. My name is Elizabeth Bell, and I'll be your host today. So as we wait maybe for a few more minutes just to give people some time to get on, we'll move forward and go through some information here for the record, so you know what you're getting into for today. So why are we doing a webinar series? Well, don't have to tell anybody that we are living in kind of a unprecedented, a little bit of a weird time right now. We're living in a pandemic. People have been working from home, and we're really all living in a virtual world right now. Well, we here at Sublime Computer Services, we are an IT company. We are the IT department for our clients. And so, of course, we were very busy. We got people ready and set up to work from home. We had quite a rush with getting people into this new normal. And then as people settled in, we realized, really we need to reposition ourselves to be a place where people can ask questions, get education, ask advice, and really to get some tools to be able to work virtually and remotely in this new normal. So we have decided to jump into the virtual world here, and that's really where the webinars were birthed. What can you expect from Shop Talk with Sublime? Well, we are going to have informative, relevant topics. We, of course, are an IT or technology firm, so of course we will be talking on some technology topics, but we wanted to hit a lot of different things. So we'll touch on telemedicine and human resources and marketing, a lot of different topics. We are going to view these from 10,000 feet. So what do we mean by that? That means that obviously in an hour, we can't hit every single detail on a topic. So we hope to give you plenty of information and ways to get more information if it's something that interests you. We are hoping this will be positive, hopefully a little bit entertaining, and we do want this to be interactive. So please put your questions in the chat. At the end, we do have some space set aside for questions or comments. We'd love to be able to just share knowledge back and forth. We are going to be doing these webinars weekly through the end of May. At that point, we'll move to a monthly webinar series. So we hope that you can join us on Thursdays at 2 o'clock Central Time. So how can you join in the fun? Well, if you're with us right now, you have figured that out. You know to go to sublimecomp.com/Shop Talk with Sublime, and you'll find our schedule and our topics and be able to register there. We are recording these sessions, so if you'd like to watch one later, maybe you couldn't make it on, you'll be able to do that. We put these recordings onto our YouTube channel, our website, and all of our social media. You can connect with us there. We've got our website, sublimecomp.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Twitter and all those fun social media sites. So please follow us, give us a like, and see what kind of information we can share there. As far as topics, today we are going to be a little bit more technology related and talking about becoming a human firewall, but you can see some of our upcoming topics about productivity and working well from home, and also marketing. So who are you listening to today? As I said, my name is Elizabeth Bell, and here at Sublime, my official title is Vice President of Business Development. But like most of us in most businesses, I wear a lot of different hats. And I do a little bit of client education and client happies. I schedule employee get-togethers. I do some of our network and marketing. I also try very hard to keep our president in line. So our president and founder of Sublime is Adam Bell, and he is my husband. He and I started the company in 2008, so we've had the privilege of working together. He's with me on the call today just to kind of keep me in line as far as technology information, make sure I don't give out incorrect information, but also to answer any questions you may have that are a little bit more detailed. So what are we going to talk about today? Becoming a human firewall. What exactly do we mean by that? Well, we want you to be able to be the cyber superhero in your office. So if you have at any point registered for something online, made a reservation online, done your banking online. You may have had the unfortunate incidents of having your credit card stolen or some personal information compromised, your bank account compromised. It has happened to, I would venture to say, most of us. It's an uncomfortable situation. There's a lot of things you have to do, and it's really kind of a pain. And if it's happened to you once, more than likely you're concerned or worried or even anxious about it happening again. And if you are feeling that way, you are not alone. Over 70% of Americans in a survey recently done, they admitted to feeling very worried about having their personal data stolen. Compare that to only 24% were worried about terrorism, and only 17% were worried about being murdered. So more people are worried and concerned about having their personal information stolen. And really, that fear is justified. If you look at murder rates around the country, they are relatively low in places. They're going down in some places. But when you look at cybercrime numbers, those numbers are continuing to rise. 3,809,448. This is the number of pieces of information, personal information, that was stolen every day in 2018. Now that number, this 3 million number, is higher by 126% from 2017. I haven't found data from 2019, but I would venture to say it's much bigger than this number even. This boils down to 44 pieces of information that are stolen online every second. Cybercrime is real. It's a real problem. It really feels like people can just reach out and get anything from you anywhere at any time, and there is just nowhere to hide. And that's because we live in a connected society. We are connected people to people. We are connected people to things, even more so right now. Those things are connected to things, and then those things are connected to other people. It's estimated that there are over 200 billion connected devices going around the world right now. So everyone is connected. Dumb things are being made smart. We have cars that tell us when our oil needs to be changed or when something's in our blind spot. We have refrigerators that make our grocery lists for us. Our daughter was in college and her dryer would text message her when her clothes were dry. We have phones that know everything about us. They know where we are, where our family members are. They know what we ate, how well we slept last night. They know our facial shape and characteristics. They have our thumbprint. They know all of our passwords. And this is known as the Internet of Things. So you might see that in literature, IoT, the Internet of Things. And this is really great, and it is a real thing. It's really great for consumers, but it also poses a real risk. Adding one dumb thing to another dumb thing does not necessarily make it smarter. And cyber criminals know this, and they are exploiting this. As long as there have been people on the earth, there have been criminals. Back a long time ago, you needed a knife or a gun, you hid in a dark alley, you jumped out, said stick them up, and you grabbed a person's belongings and ran off. If you didn't get caught, it was pretty profitable. Then as time progressed and technology progressed, then we got stagecoaches, and suddenly a criminal could rob 10 people at a time, and that was more profitable. Then you fast forward, we now have trains. All of a sudden, these criminals can now, in one time, one person rob up to 100, 150 people at a time, even more profitable. Now, the new train robberies are cybercrime related. That's because we've had more and more advancements in technology. More and more people are putting their personal information and their financial information on this technology. So if you think about it, that's way more profitable. One person could literally rob millions in one time. And they are. You see increasing numbers of these attacks, these cyber attacks every day. This particular graphic, the arrow is pointing to a graphic. I know it's a little hard to read, but If you are a visual learner, I would encourage you to go to a website called Information is Beautiful. It has a lot of really cool graphics and pictures of ways to learn things. But this is just showing over time the increase in data breaches and hacks by cyber criminals, and also how many people are affected, and it is growing and continues to grow. Now, instead of just 10 or 100 people at a time, it's millions. This particular incident on this slide, the JP Morgan credit card company, this was several years ago, but this wasn't just one person stealing a credit card. This was one person or a small group of people stealing tens of millions of credit cards. 80 million people were affected. 7 million businesses were affected in this one incident. A little bit more recent, Equifax was hacked. 147 million people were affected by this hack. And they weren't after money, they were after information. But it's very easy. These train robberies are getting bigger and bigger. So what do the cyber criminals use this data for? Lots of different things. They might use your name and your address or your social security number to open up a credit card in your name. They might take a loan out in your name, get your tax refund. They also might use your information to make a targeted email to someone else, making it look like it's coming from you. They might use your credentials to get into other networks. They might use your credentials to send spam or to send pornographic information to someone else and make it look like it's coming from you. They might sit there and mine for cryptocurrency, money online. They might go into a website of a company and destroy that website. So there are many different things that criminals are trying to do with these pieces of information. Everyone is a target. So they're not just going after large companies, they're going after individuals as well. Found a quote from IBM's president, and she says, cybercrime is the greatest threat to every company in the world, and it's rapidly becoming the greatest threat to every person, every place, and everything in the world. It's been said that there's two kinds of organizations, when I would venture to say two kinds of people as well, those that have been hacked and those that will be. So how does this happen? Well, I love this cartoon because it says somebody broke into your computer, but it looks like the work of an inexperienced hacker. You know, if you walk in your office and there's a hatchet in your computer screen, you know somebody's been there. But hackers are not quite this obvious. They really are becoming very brilliant, very good at their craft. So let's look at some ways, some of their tricks and tools that they might use to get into computer systems. First, let's talk about what malware is. You hear that terminology, that malware is on your computer. Well, malware is malicious software, and that is software that's designed to either damage a computer network or to do unwanted actions on a computer network. People who are not IT or computer related, we call those viruses or worms or spyware. It's all malware. Now, computers are made with a firewall and antivirus to combat this malware. Even our home computers have a form of this on there. Now, a firewall, you can envision it like the fortress around your network. So if you were a castle, you've got the moat and the castle wall that's going to protect you. That's what your firewall does. It keeps things from getting in. Then you have antivirus. Antivirus hangs out on top of the wall, and they're like the soldiers on top of the wall, and they're going to get anything else that might get past the wall. Now, you have that on your computers. Your IT department should put bigger, better, more current antivirus and firewall on there. But hackers are smart. They are constantly honing their craft. New threats, 350,000 new threats are put out every day. So having just a firewall and antivirus is not really enough. These viruses are more sophisticated, they're smaller, they can get through little cracks, they mimic regular actions on your computer, so you don't know they're there. They might lay dormant for a little while and you don't know that they're there. 93% of viruses last year, which somewhere where I read, is that they were polymorphic. And what that means is they can change their code so they can avoid being detected. So these hackers are coming up with new ways to get through the firewall and antivirus. Having just that to protect you is really just like trying to put a forest fire out with a squirt gun. It's not enough anymore. Ransomware is another term you might hear when you talk about cybercrime. This is malware, malicious software, but it has one aim in mind, and that is to extort money from its victims. You may have seen something pop up, unfortunately, on your computer that might say this: your personal files are encrypted. There's a timer here, and they're asking for money, and if you don't pay by the time that timer goes down, they will either destroy your files or lock your computer system. In 2019, it was estimated that organizations and individuals paid $11.5 billion because of ransomware. Now, some of that was because people paid the ransom. Some of that was in remediating damage after having ransomware. There's been a big increase in this right now as well. This has always been a problem, but I'll tell you, cyber criminals are loving the coronavirus. There have been so many incidences and a lot of increase in malware and ransomware being put out to local governments and healthcare agencies. Lots of businesses that are working from home may not be as secure. So they've essentially widened the target area. They've broadened that surface area for the hackers to get to. So it's been a big increase in this ransomware that we've seen over the last couple of months. So how in the world do they get this into your computer system? Lots of different ways. One of those ways is that most malware comes via email. Phishing, you might have heard that term, phishing emails. So those are emails that look legitimate. They look like they're coming from a legitimate person or a source, but they are really targeting you to make you open something to either get your credentials or to put that malware on the computer. Whaling, what that is just phishing for a bigger target. Like I said, there's been a big increase in this right now. People are very hungry for information. We want to know what's happening with the virus, what's the new cure, what are the rates of people getting coronavirus, and there's all these things coming out, emails with information and videos and charities to donate because of the coronavirus. But we need to be very careful right now about opening up any email if you don't know where it's coming from. So phishing emails may be how they're getting malware to you. Spam emails. I know a lot of us have those spam filters, which is great, but some get through still. So you can even look back at some of the big data breaches, that JP Morgan data breach, Target. A lot of those were started with a poisoned email. Malvertising is another way that they might get malware to you or to your computer network. Malvertising, those are advertising. We all have seen those little ads on the side of our computer that pop up, when you've looked up something and the next day there's ads for that. The ads might be legitimate to a legitimate place, but hackers have figured out how to put malware into these ads. So you need to be very careful about clicking through an ad. Just the best case and best practice would be to go directly to a site if you want information or you want to go shopping on that site. Don't click through, because there could potentially be some malware put into that particular ad. Watering holes, kind of the same principle as the ads, but a watering hole is a popular site. So all your social media sites, if you have an intranet with your work, that would be considered a watering hole. Right now, I would also put in any of those news or information sites. So CNN or your local NBC affiliate. If you see at the end of your email and there's a neat video of watch this about coronavirus or watch this about the man who did the unicycle all the way to Florida. There are these really cool videos that you might want to go check out on the news. But when you click through that video, be very careful. There may be malware in those. And like I said, especially right now with this coronavirus, there's a lot of fake news, a lot of fake sites and scams. So you need to be very careful. It's always best practice to go straight to and directly to the site to get your information. Social media, just touched on that, but many times hackers are sending emails, phishing emails, that look like they're from your social media site. Many people have gotten an email. I've gotten several that look very similar to this. Facebook telling me they're concerned about my security, and all I need to do is click here and update my account. Again, best practice, go directly to a site to change your information or update your information. Make sure your passwords are up to date also on these and different for different sites. Social media is a big place for malware and hackers to get information. Vendor sites. Now this one's harder for you to control. Even when you've done everything on your part and made yourself secure, you can't always guarantee someone else has done the same. This is just a listing of some popular vendors and vendor sites that have been hacked in the past. Odds are you've put information on one of these sites, or you've done business with a business that has been potentially hacked. That hacker then has a backdoor into your information. So it's really hard to control this one, but this is a way that hackers can get information or get malware and get your information. Mobile devices. Technology keeps on advancing, and we're not tied to our desktop computers anymore. We can work from anywhere, as evidenced over the last few months, right? Many of us are working in different environments than we've ever been. But anything that we need to do, we can do remotely or do from our phones or our tablets. This has opened up a new whole area for cyber criminals. They're not tied to our desktops anymore either. And as the saying goes, there's an app for that. They've even figured out ways to put malware into apps that go on your phones. You need to be mindful of that. People are doing a lot more online banking. You can get a mortgage on your phone, register for a mortgage. So being very careful. A lot of bank fraud is happening on mobile devices. There's even a scary trend. This actually happened here in Tennessee, this particular incident, where scammers are putting ransomware onto people's phones and actually downloading child pornography and then basically extorting money from you, or they'll turn you into the police. So they have no boundaries. They have no morals. So it's pretty scary trend, this cyber extortion. So are you scared yet? If you listen to all that and you think, oh my goodness, they can get me from anywhere. Don't be scared. Yes, these threats are real. They are scary. But some of you might be thinking, well, they're not really after me. I'm not all that worried. Well, the problem with that thinking is they may not be directly after you, but they are after your information. And so there is still that threat. And then other people may think, well, I'm okay because I have an IT department or a computer guy at my work and he takes care of all that security. Well, the problem with that way of thinking is that 95% of cybersecurity breaches are due to human error. And if that's the case, then cybercrime is not just an IT department problem. It's everyone's problem. And ultimately, cybercrime is really not about computers. It's really about behavior, bad behavior. So we have bad behavior on the part of the criminal, and then we also have bad behavior on the computer user because maybe they're not being as careful. The good news is that bad behavior can be changed. So let's actually talk about good behavior. Let's talk about how to become a good human firewall. So remember a few minutes ago, we talked about what a firewall is, what it does. It's the fortress around the castle. It's the wall around your computer and keeping things out. But if you also remember a few minutes ago, we talked about the fact that cyber criminals are constantly coming up with new ways to get through or over that wall. So we need another way to to protect our computer network. And that way is to decrease human error. None of us are perfect. So we need to find another layer of protection. We need to become a firewall. So let's talk about some good habits of a good human firewall. The number one habit of a good human firewall is to stop clicking, or at least think before you click. Okay, so remember, don't click on ads, don't click through to attachments and videos. Really pay attention to an email about who sent it to you and what they're sending before you click on that, especially right now, again, with the coronavirus, being very mindful of who is sending you something and what they are sending you. So think before you click. The second habit of a human firewall is, seriously, stop clicking. I know that sounds very simple, but just don't click through these things. Just really, really think. The third habit of a good human firewall is that they use strong passwords. Now, I know I have been guilty of using the same password for everything, all of my devices, all of the sites that I go to, because it's just too hard to remember them all, right? I know it's difficult, but it's so important. So here are some suggestions on using strong passwords. What makes a strong password? Well, making it a long nonsense phrase is, and the longer the better. This is a good, strong password. So you want it to be, most businesses will have a policy of having them 8 to 10 characters. It's really better to have them 12, 15, or longer. That is harder for a cyber criminal to figure out. You want it to be a nonsense word, so not a word that's found in the dictionary. You want to not use your dog's name or your kids' names and their birthdays. You want to make sure that you're also not just using the letters in succession on your keyboard. That's very easy to crack. And so being mindful of the words that you choose. Using numbers and symbols and upper and lowercase. Again, just make it a nonsense word that's harder to crack. You do need to change a password often. I know most places do have that in their policy as well, or they should, that a password is changed every 6 weeks, every 9 weeks, every 3 months, however often is in the policy. That just keeps it harder to crack. If someone got your password, then it would be changed. It is difficult when you're changing passwords and trying to remember them all, so using a password manager is a good habit to be in. A password manager is great because you only have to remember one really strong, good password, and then all of your other passwords are in there. So that's one way that you can make sure that you can have these strong passwords and not have to remember them all. Using multi-factor authentication is another way of using strong passwords. The theory behind that is that it uses something you know, your password, and something you have, which would be your phone. What happens with this is you put your password into something and then it sends you a code that then you have to enter. I know a lot of people are, oh, it's another step, I don't want to do that. But again, it's very good for keeping your information secure. It's harder for criminals to crack this because even if they know your password, odds are they're not going to have your phone. So multi-factor authentication is a great way to protect your information. So using strong passwords is a good habit. Another habit of a good human firewall is that they practice situational awareness. Now, this tactic or this habit really comes from, if you've ever taken a self-defense class, the number one thing that they teach you is to be aware of your surroundings. Take stock of where you are, take stock of who is around you. It's the same principle in cybersecurity. You want to make sure you know who's around you and where you are. Now, obviously, if you're working from home right now, these things are not quite as a big deal right now, as important right now, but as we transition back to our offices and our buildings, these things are things you need to think about. Keeping a clean desk, that's a good habit just to have anyways, but when you think about it from a cybersecurity point of view, you want to not have your, sorry, move my screen there. You want to not have sticky notes all over the place with your login information on it. You also want to make sure that you don't have client or patient information sitting out on a desk where someone could walk by and see that or grab that. So keeping your desk area clean is a good protection. Proper disposal of information. You do want to make sure that you're shredding information. Now, again, as you're working from home, that's a little bit harder to do. But if you are printing out any information with patient information or client information, even your information, your business information, you need to check with your employer and make sure that you are taking care of that. You don't want to just throw it in your kitchen trash and then it's out on your street. So you want to make sure that you take care of all of that information properly. You also want to make sure that when it's time to get rid of an old computer or a hard drive, that you're disposing of that properly and securely. You do need to make sure you have a certificate of destruction when you get rid of those information, of any of those equipment pieces. Another way to practice situational awareness is to be discreet when you're accessing information or discussing information, making sure that people are not overhearing your conversation or maybe looking over your shoulder, which actually segues into the next square there, watching for shoulder surfers. You want to make sure that people aren't looking at your screen and finding out information. Again, not such a concern when it's your child sitting in the kitchen, but as we transition back to work in the office, or maybe you're working from Starbucks or at an airport, that's when you need to make sure that the people around you are not able to see your screen. Make sure that you are using a secure VPN when you're working remotely. All of those things are going to be able to keep your cybersecurity intact. Unfamiliar face or open door. Again, you just want to make sure, if there's somebody walking into an office building and you're not sure who they are, be bold. Ask them, can I help you? Are you lost? Can I direct you to the right place? So just making sure that you are aware of who is around and should they be there. A fifth habit of a good human firewall is that they practice good cyber hygiene. Now, this is just like personal hygiene. It's keeping things clean. So a little bit different, though, from a clean desk area, which is the physical area. This is really more about keeping your computer network clean. So you do want to make sure you're updating and patching things. I know it seems like there's a new update every time we turn around. But if you remember, the cyber criminals are coming up with new viruses and malware every day. So these patches, these updates are good for fixing bugs and patching holes, is exactly what they're doing. They're keeping that wall secure. So you do need to make sure you're using the most updated version of any of your operating systems. Make sure that you're patching as needed, making sure that your IT department is doing this. They should be getting these notifications as well. So we need to make sure everybody's on the same page. A 3-2-1 backup system. Now, backing up data is so important. It's very important, especially in the case of ransomware. So when we talked a little bit ago about how those cyber criminals will lock your computer or destroy your files if you don't pay, if you have a backup of your information, you can move on with life without having to pay the ransom. All your information is going to be there. So making sure you back up. 3-2-1 is that you need 3 total copies on 2 different storage media, and one of those needs to be off-site. So that could be the cloud, it can be a data center, but you do need to be backing up regularly and often. Check with your IT department, your computer person at work, and make sure that this is being done. If not, then please contact us here at Sublime Computer Services, and we'll be glad to take a look at your backup system and make sure that you're on the right track with that. Antivirus software and a firewall. Again, very important to have these, but they can't be the only thing. Making sure, again, that you're updating and using the most current version of these. encryption, and a virtual private network. So this has to do with you sending data from one place to another. Encryption is really when things are in code. Anytime you're sending information from one place to another, especially if it's patient or client information, that needs to be encrypted. That way, if it's intercepted by a hacker or a cyber criminal, they can't read it. This is a requirement for HIPAA, or if you're a financial institution, anything that's governed by those regulatory bodies. This is a must. This has to be done. So again, check with your IT department, your computer person, make sure that they have proper encryption. The same with a VPN. A VPN is kind of like a tunnel from one place to another. And when you send information, it will go through this tunnel and basically not be seen. If it is seen and taken, it's encrypted, so they can't read it. But you need to have both these things. Again, layers are important when you're doing cybersecurity. But check with your IT department, make sure these things are in place. Spam filtering and web filtering, same type principle. This is just going to take all that spam and send it off, so you're not even tempted to click on anything. But also this needs to include ad blockers. But we want to make sure habit number 1 of no clicking, we don't even have to worry about it because everything's going to be blocked. So making sure, again, those are all pieces of having good cyber hygiene, making sure your network's clean. Number 6 is to respect privileged access. Now, we all have different levels of responsibility, different levels of access at our jobs, no matter what our jobs are or where we work. So we need to respect that, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. So we need to make sure our screens are locked when we are away from our desk. That way the wrong person's not looking at what they shouldn't be. Never share credentials. So this means your login information. This means your passwords. These is your key cards if you have secure places within your office building or your office. Don't share these with anyone. They're so easily copied, and then people can actually then do things on your login and it makes it look like you did. So please be very mindful. Never share your credentials with anyone. Close and lock doors to secure areas. Again, as we transition back into our office buildings, this becomes more of an issue. But if a door is locked, it needs to stay locked. If it's closed, it needs to stay closed. And so you want to make sure that you're watching that and making sure things are staying secure that need to be. This also tags on to the next where it says prevent tailgating. Again, this is more of an issue in a large office building where maybe you don't know everyone that goes in and out. But if you're in an office building where the doors are closed and locked, tailgating is when you're opening the door and going in and somebody says, oh, wait, hold the door. We're in the South, we want to be polite, we want to hold the door for people. But if you don't know them, then it's better for you to say, well, hi, I don't know you. Who are you here to see? Maybe you can walk them to that office or to the front desk. Just being bold and asking if you don't know who they are to make sure that things stay secure. Another way to respect access is to have those strong and unique passwords for every single device. That just respects the things that you need to keep secure, make sure that they're secure, and again, never share those credentials with anybody. Number 7 habit for a good human firewall is that they report incidents immediately. So what should be reported? That's a question that we get a lot. It's like, okay, so I'm supposed to report it. What do I need to report? Well, this basically boils down to if you see something, say something. Some things, though, to think about that you would need to report. Now, this can either be reported to your supervisor or directly to the IT department, but unknown individuals hanging around. So especially if they really look like they're not supposed to be there or they look like they don't really know what to do, again, just ask them. They might be lost. It might be nothing. It might be everything. So just watching out for unknown individuals. An open door that's normally closed and locked, that would be something that you'd want to report. Again, it might be nothing, it might be everything. Secure areas need to stay secure. You need to alert your IT department or supervisor if you have had a phishing attack. So whether that came through an email or on the phone, your text messaging, that needs to be reported immediately. Please don't ever feel embarrassed or like you're going to get in trouble for having a phishing attack or falling, victim to a phishing attack. Everyone, we've all done that. These hackers are getting really, really smart, and it's hard to tell the difference sometimes. So please don't feel embarrassed, or wait, 3 days or a week or 2 weeks. Things, can progress far in 2 weeks. So please telling your IT department immediately is very key. But it also will protect others, your coworkers from getting falling victim to the same thing, and it can help your IT department crack down on that very quickly. You also need to report devices acting strangely. Now, I know everybody thinks, well, computers have a mind of their own. And sometimes they do. They just feel like they do things on their own. But sometimes, if things are running slowly or it's glitchy or, it pops you out of a screen when you didn't mean to. Anything that's acting a little strange from what it normally does, please report that to your IT department. It might be that maybe something just needed to be updated or something needed to be fixed on that computer. But those can also be indications of a data breach or malware being on that computer. So please let your IT department know as quickly as possible. Also reporting randomly found flash drives or a charging cable, things that might just be hanging around. And I know people think, well, I would never pick that up and use that. But you'd be surprised, hey, free charging cable, right? Well, that's really a common way that malware can be transferred. Charging ports in public places, those type things. You just need to be really careful and mindful of those because those might contain malware on those. So please alert your supervisor or your IT department about any of these incidents. And the final habit of a good human firewall is that they know and follow policy. Policies and procedures are really the foundation that your firewall is built on. Okay, they set the standards. Policies are your standards of how data is collected and stored and transferred and destroyed. These policies are there to make sure that employees' privacy is kept intact, your client's privacy is kept intact. So knowing and following policy is very important. This slide really boils down to policies. You need to have them, tell them, and enforce them. So the first thing is that a policy you need to have it. It needs to be documented. It must be formally written. It needs to be in a place where everyone knows where it is and where they can access these policies. These policies can be simple and basic. So something like what's acceptable use on your computer. What are password policies, remote work policies, who do you report and how do you report incidents to. Those things can start off simply like that, and then you add and those grow as you need to things like emergency procedures and disaster recovery and business continuity. These are important to have. If you don't know if your company has policies, or maybe you are in a supervisor role and you know that your company doesn't have policies, check with your IT department, or you can contact us, Adam at sublimecomp.com. We actually have some policy templates that we're glad to share to walk you through using that for your company to get you started. So make sure you've got those policies and have them documented. But they also need to be taught. So if you have a policy but nobody reads it, it's kind of like having a message in a bottle. It's not going to do any good. So you need to make sure that these are given to people, that you go over them, that they're told. There's studies that show that people need to hear something 6 times before they get it. So making sure over and over that they are educated on these policies. Policies need to be audited and changed from time to time because technology changes, your business changes, your office staff changes. So you need to look at those over time and say, well, does this really still make sense? Or do we need to, is this even obsolete, with technology? So making sure that you adjust those as needed is very important. And then a policy needs to be enforced. So you do need to punish bad behavior, but it's also very important to reward good behavior. So if an employee does something good and maybe you reports an incident that stops a big problem, those things need to be rewarded. So enforcing the bad and the good is important. And then all of that together really speaks to your company culture and your company's security culture. So you want people to feel like they can ask questions and embrace education on technology and learning new policies. Do you have a culture where people are afraid of getting in trouble and so they don't want to report things? Do they have ownership of these type things, or are they just sort of, we'll just let the supervisor handle it? These are all questions about companies, no matter what your business is, but policies really help to define that and help you to move forward into a good company culture. So a good human firewall knows and follows policy. So that is the last habit there. Lots of information, I know, but those are all good tips for being a good human firewall and stopping cybersecurity, cyber criminals from getting into a network. So like I said, lots of information, but what have we learned today? Well, we have learned that cybercrime is real. It's a very real problem, but it's not just an IT problem. Cybercrime is everyone's problem. And cybercrime is not just about computers. It is also about behaviors. There's a human element to it. So we did talk about good behaviors, and those good behaviors, when you do those and those habits, they're going to lead to being good habits, which then lead to a stronger and more secure IT environment. That environment equals success for you and for your business and your home network as well. These things apply. So now we have time. Any questions or comments if we have from anyone? And if not, don't think we do, then we will move forward. Just to let you know what our topic will be next week. We are talking about SEO and swag. So we will be talking about your online marketing presence and your physical in-person presence. So please join us for that. I've got a couple of really great guests on with me next week for that. June, we will be talking about HIPAA compliance. You can go ahead and mark your calendar for that one as well. And again, if you have suggestions on a topic you'd like to hear us talk about, especially if it's technology related, please let us know. We'd love to bring some education to you on that. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for joining us with Shop Talk with Sublime, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.